Hi everyone, hi Spartans. So today is Saturday. Tomorrow is Sunday the 13th of August, and that means one thing. It is Spartan South West. Now, before I get into the nitty gritty, tomorrow is my 43rd birthday. Yes, I get to do a Spartan on my birthday. How lucky am I? But the one down in Badminton is a non-trifecta weekend. That means it is a single day, and there's two events running, a beast and a sprint. Now I'm a little bit gutted that we don't get a fourth trifecta in the year, because I am right in the middle of my triple trifecta year. I've done Henley, I've done Midlands, and I'll do Pippingford. So but this is a bonus event, so the Badminton Estate is now a bonus event because it's not a trifecta. The silver lining in this particular scenario is that I can commit 100% to a singular event without any worry of what is coming the next day or later in the day. Now, I have opted to forego my afternoon sprint because of a couple of reasons. One, I want to give everything to Beast, and two, it is my birthday. I have children. I'd like to get home and see them for some of it. So I have pushed that particular ticket into 2024. So the plan is going to be a max effort on the Beast. Now, the Beast is a funny one because it's a hard one to pace because of the distance. It's a hard one to know how much you can do, with full beans, how much you can commit. The estate is a bit of an unknown measure because it's a new site. It isn't particularly gradient heavy, so assuming that the actual terrain is quite traversable in terms of running, like cross-country running, things like that, then it should be sustainable to run the entire thing without too much bother. I just need to not mess around when I get to the obstacles, no jibber jabber, just get over it, get under it, whatever, without too many penalties. Now, most people will incur penalties on a Spartan Beast. The spear throw alone, even though I've hit that bale of hay many times, it could just as easy go wide or just drop out. I'm particularly stupid on the balancing ones, the balance beams. I touched one with my hand once, and now they're thrown in a slack line, which is almost like a balance beam, but just lower and less rigid. Great. Absolutely going to fall off those two. But we'll see. I will not be wearing any cameras tomorrow. The plan is that Holly will follow me as much as she can. The idea is that she's got a fixed camera. She'll take this camera and a GoPro with the instruction to find me on as many obstacles as possible, ideally capturing the beginning and the end. She doesn't have to catch me on all the obstacles. I won't be wearing a camera. We all know what obstacles are in a Spartan race. They're pretty much standard and they appear in many of my other videos, so it will mainly be external camera only, which is great. It means one less thing for me to do, one less thing for me to think about, and one less thing for me to carry. So I'm obviously thinking about all the ways I can save time, and weight is one of them. So it will be my lightweight running kit, my carbon fibre trail shoes, just lots of little things that I'm going to push to the front to enable those marginal gains. Because Gloucester is 2.5 hours away, and I'm only going to be there, I'm only going to be actually running for about 2.5 hours, it didn't seem appropriate to get a hotel, plus it's my birthday, I want to get home. So I'm going to be getting up at the stupidest hour imaginable, sub 5 AM perhaps, to be on the road for about 5 AM, so I can drive down to the Badminton Estate, sort of get there, parked up, registered, have a little nose around, all the little things everyone does, all the sort of pre-race rituals everyone has. You see them happening all around you when you're actually at a Spartan race. I'm no different, I have them as well, so I will be doing them on the day. Tomorrow morning. So yeah, by 8 o'clock in the morning I should be there with my headband on doing my final prep. It seems stupid close when I say it like that. Okay, so this was just a sort of a warm-up. Everything else will be shot from the Badminton Estate, and let's see how this day goes. Alright, let's get on with this. It
It is 4:45 on the 13th of August, and I am 43 years old today, and I am about to get in the car to drive down to Spartan South West. Oh, it's so exciting.
Hi guys, I am here at the Badminton Estate down at Spartan South West. So after 2.5 hours in the car, getting up at 4:45 on my birthday, we've finally arrived. I don't have long before my wave at 8:20 in the age group 40 to 45s. Already a couple of differences. The A-frame does not look like your typical Spartan A-frame. In fact, it's taller, steeper, and has some bizarre safety net thing over the top. That's probably for the Tough Mudder crowd who like safety nets. The rig at the end, which is there, does have some subtle differences, despite it still being there at the end to sort of demoralise you in your final moments. It has got a subtle change to the ring configuration, the rope configuration. One of the first things you notice is that at Midlands it was 3 short ropes at the end, which made it really impossible for just about everyone, with the exception of the super strong elite crowd. But this one now has a long rope, which means it's grabbable from the bar and then straight into a ring into a short rope. So at the very least you could probably get to the ring and swing to the bell. Hopefully that'll be what happens to me. I don't have too long to talk right now. Like I said in the intro video previous, that this today is just an attempt on my own time. I will run my own race. You always get a little wrapped up in the competitiveness of other people, but I hope just to beat my time that I set at Henley. So I'm going to go have a little look around quickly and then go get my headband on and get ready. I can see that they're setting up for the laser pistols just here. I don't think we get to play with them on the piece, but it's an interesting addition to the lineup. More of a skill than it is an activity or an exercise. Pew pew, pew pew, pew pew. Yeah. This is the A-frame, and as you can see, there's a lot more to it than your regular Spartan A-frame. A lot more scaffolding for a start. It looks steeper. It's still got sort of the webbing up to there. It looks to be about another sort of 10 foot higher. But it also has kind of this weird safety net over the top. Obviously, people doing forward flips over the top and stuff. Someone's obviously come off at some point to warrant health and safety to stand in and say, nope, we can't have that. One of the things that's been a bit shit at the other races is the fire jump has always been a bit puny. You look at American ones, it's like a massive fierce inferno. Last 2 times I've jumped over the fire jump, it's been sort of embers and ash.
Okay guys, so this is the bit where I took you through my race day video. Now don't worry, it's not every obstacle, it's not every bit of running. This is just the selected bits where my wife Holly was able to pursue me and find me and film me from an external camera. Okay, so we're going to start at the very beginning where she got the start point at the overs, unders and throughs. So let's pick this up. So the 40s to 49-year-olds have just been released by Spartan Phil. 3, 2, 1, go. So she's seeing a bunch of sexy older men charging directly at her. And the first thing is the 4-foot wall. Okay, so there's 1 guy, there's 2 guy, there's 3 guy, the 4th guy is me in the blue vest and the orange shoes with the shin guards going under there and then through the through, and immediately she pursued me across the field and got me going over the 8-foot wall. At that point I ran into the forest and she lost sight of me for ages. Now at this point all she missed was 5 miles of running, a barbed wire crawl and a Z wall. And she picked me up at the point where I just failed Olympus. And she got me, she picked me up running the abnormally long penalty loop for that. It's so long you could probably land a plane on it. I wasn't particularly happy. I've never got on with the Olympus thing. It's mainly those holes, my fingers hurt. So this is regular running again, and I'm sort of making my way sort of around and past her as she's sort of heckling me from the side. At this point I'm still sort of running quite quick, sort of 7s to 7:15 minute miles, and sort of do a bit of a U-turn, head over the hill to the slack line that's waiting for me. Now, I'm not particularly good at the balance obstacles, but the slack line, somehow I aced it this day. You don't get any video of that, I'm afraid. She picked me up again at the Atlas Stone carry, where the guy in the purple shirt had just deposited the Atlas Stone for me. I've always been a case of holding it with interlocked fingers. I've never been a fan of putting it on the shoulder. This is just how I roll. I never need to put it down. You could double that distance, I would still be good. Although it was a good 4 times longer than it had been at the previous Spartans. Now, despite my grimacing, I'm really quite comfortable and okay at doing this one.
Get this done.
At this point, we're on the long, thin, straight bit that leads sort of up and down the estate. So Holly quickly ceases to record and starts bolting up to the next obstacle. Bearing in mind she's got a backpack on, a hoodie and all of the supplies, so she's doing pretty well. At this point, she picks me up at the vertical wall. These things are a piece of piss. They could add 4 or 5 of these in a row. It won't really slow the majority of people down. They're super easy. Beyond this, we go into the rolling mud. As you can see, it's taped off. We only had to do half of what the Tough Mudder people did, which was only a quarter of what we had to do at Midlands, because we had to double back on ourselves at Midlands. So this is actually a vast improvement, and the 80% less mud promise was kept. Well done, Spartan. Well done. Once I was out, running again, onto a sandbag carry. Holly didn't get that bit because she was bolting off to intercept me at a later point. She found me at one of my favourite obstacles, which was the ape hanger. As I approached, this guy in front of me is obviously older than me, right? I'd like to think he was in the over 50s. Sorry if you are under 50, mate. But he'd obviously caught me up if that was the case. Now, as we go over this obstacle side by side, I had no idea that so I hadn't looked at him at this point. I didn't know that he was in fact from the wave after me and he'd caught me up. But as he landed on the other side, he burst out with the, "I can't believe I did that. That's the first time I've ever done that obstacle. It saved me a bunch of time." So I think it was a big deal for him to make it over. It's a favourite of mine and I've never failed that obstacle, but big kudos to you, dude.
Nice,
On this particular stretch, it was beautiful on this bit. It was just running down this tree line. You could see Spartans as far as the eye could see. It was just great. And then at the very bottom of that particular piece of beautiful scenery, there was a right turn into the armour obstacle. Now, similar to the Atlas Stone, this had been quadrupled in length. And there were no armours available, so I had to wait 3 or 4 guys to sort of bring the stones back before I got my go. In the end, I got this particular one. What's difficult about these is that it's a hand grip you would find on a cable fly at a gym, which means it's only really got enough space for one hand, so you kind of squash your fingers in as best you can. And what generally happens is you get finger ache. Not necessarily when you're doing it, but when you let go, it's hard to straighten your fingers out. Again, not particularly fussed about this one. It doesn't really tax me that greatly. You can see other people really struggling with it, and I don't know whether it's the weight or what, but generally that one's okay. I kind of find that good, and I'm glad it's just that little bit longer, certainly in the age groups. Here you pick us up on Blender, I think it is. This is where they've got rotating lateral bars. Now, what you mustn't do is end up on the rotating bars at the same time as someone else, so you kind of have to just wait for the guy in front of you to clear the bars. If you end up on the same bar at the same time, I think things are going to get messy. A little bit further down the line, we're already skipped ahead to the dunk wall. Again, this is one of those things where you could have 4 or 5 of the same thing in a row. It might really slow down the majority of Spartans. It's not really an obstacle. The barbed wire crawls, they're a bit of a pain in the ass. A lot of guys, if there's space to, will just roll under them like this. The problem is if you roll too many times, you get out the other side like you've had 6 pints. if you've got space to turn around, you can do, but I didn't particularly have that much space. Oh, these are my people. Look, I think some of these guys look a little bit younger than I do, so they're probably from the previous wave. After this, there was the rope climb. Now, as I approached this, I anticipated the ropes being dry, since there was no mud. So I imagine my surprise when I grabbed the first rope and it was slippy and slimy, like it was covered in KY jelly. I couldn't quite get my feet off the ground, so I opted to quickly move to another rope, just in case that one was better. Now I got my footlock a little bit lower, and then I lost the rope completely, but I was on a dry bit of rope by then, so my hands could hold on. The higher you go, the drier the rope became, and you generally find that because most people fail it low down. And then it's a bit of a run to the slippery wall, or the whatever it's called, the slick wall. A big shout out to the guy in the wall from top who's on the rope next to me. He sort of recognised me from my videos, so massive shout out to you, dude. It was super nice of you to say on the way around. It really picked me up. Loads better than the previous events. It was, I say better, it was easier. It should have probably had a little water pool at the bottom of it to make it a little bit slippy. Now this one is the alternating monkey bars. This one had been fixed a little bit because there was a bar right there above the start station. A lot of the shorter guys have complained that wasn't there at the previous event. Again, this is one of those that doesn't really bother me because I sort of bend my arms and maintain control. What was interesting is straight off the back of that, it went straight into a sandbag carry. I almost thought it was a penalty.
Looking strong, man.
And it was quite a long sandbag carry too. And I managed to maintain a decent sort of amount of running throughout that particular one, so I didn't really waste that much time. It was good. Overtook a few dudes. And here we have the vertical cargo, one with the sort of high table. This one sort of, I had learned this particular technique that I'm using, the sort of elbows into sort of tricep push from Henley. In fact, I copied a guy and I've done it the exact same way and I've sort of perfected it. The worst thing you can do is run at it straight into the bucket carry. At this point, I had not assumed that anything had in fact been modified with this particular obstacle. What it was quite kind of obvious is that it was really super long. You can see these guys just sort of disappearing over the hill, and it felt like it was many hundreds of meters. And I do try to maintain like that light jog throughout. I don't like walking with them. When you're at the hillier events, you can't help it, but at this one it was kind of okay to run with. At this point I was noticing guys dropping the buckets and picking them up at the Herculean hoist. At that point the penny dropped in my mind that they had merged these two obstacles together in a stroke of freaking genius. Put your bucket down, do your hoist, carry on with your bucket. Just amazing. I do quite like the hoist. It's sort of a really good balance of sort of an all-over compound body exercise. It's just the right sort of weight where it tests everyone. Obviously, if it doesn't test you, then you can obviously do it faster until it does test you. And they have a little bit of a rule that you're not supposed to drop the sandbag that I have witnessed many times over. People dropping the sandbag from the top and never having to face penalty. So as you can see, I'm lowering it down like a good boy before picking up my bucket and sort of carrying on to the end of the carry. I wish I'd picked my knees up a little bit there. Obviously I hadn't quite got the motivation. So after that it was the spear throw. Now got a bit of a bugbear about this one. So as you can see, my hay bale has sunk lower than all the others, and my spear actually goes through where it should have been, through sort of the shoulder part. If you looked at any of the other, rewind that bit, if you look at any of the other mannequins, the actual hay bale covers the shoulder joints. And if it was a man, it would have gone through his shoulder. Oh, come on, man. Because it didn't stick in, it didn't count. So I got sent down this stupid, abnormally, frustratingly long penalty loop. Now we're approaching the A-frame. Now this was a point of conversation because it wasn't the usual A-frame. It was bigger, it was made of scaffolding, and it had a protective net over the top. I understand it then wasn't available to the sprint crowd either, so they ended up going over with the baby one that was for the kids. But this was actually super high. When you got to the top, it felt really high, but you felt safe because it had the net on it. So it was actually a good addition, and I think, you know, if anything, they should have this at all the Spartans. As you can see, when the going up and the coming down is very much like a ladder. You can't be throwing yourself off and coming down backwards like you do on the regular cargo net at the Spartan race. It's a bit of a there's only really one gear, there's only really one speed, and that is careful and slow. And the very last thing you have to deal with, I'm afraid, is the rig. Now, I've never gone with the rig. Mainly it's the last bit of the rig. The rings are fine, and the bar is fine. It's just them stupid bits of rope. Man, even though they had adjusted it to have a rope ring. It's the first rope that tripped me. And it was a pain in the ass, and I was straight off onto the penalty, and I thought it'd just be a normal penalty loop. It wasn't. As you can see, there are 4-foot logs with a rope that I had to pick up. You can see it over my shoulder. Look, I'm following a guy again who's much older than I am, and then we turn a corner to realise that we've got to get under a bloody net, not just a net, a double net. And when you pop out of that net, you do a U-turn and you have to go back under the double net again. So 4 times under the net. You can see me, look, and see how much fun I'm having going under that particular penalty. And I suspect probably 80% of people had to do it. There I am, over the fire jump, through the photographers, and through the finish line. 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Dance finished.
2 hours 15.
Whoa, buddy.
14.13. Happy birthday to me! Okay, just finished. Really good initial response, initial reaction to the course. Really good. Although there's not a lot of gradient, there's lots of positive changes that have been made, some subtle, some sort of quite big. I'll talk about them later, but just really positive experience. We had all sorts of weather today, from sideways rain to blistering sun, so the whole thing, it's a different atmosphere now to when we started. It was all very serious, and now it's all very jovial and happy and nice again, very Spartan-y. So yeah, we're just going to get cleaned off. So, at the Badminton Estate today, turned up super early, having driven 2.5 hours to get here. I must say, off the line, I wasn't feeling like all 100%, and when everyone sprints off the line, you're suddenly like, oh crap, is this how fast everyone's going? But everyone soon settles down, everyone soon finds a rhythm. You sort of end up running with a bunch of people that you've probably seen in other trifectas or beasts or whatever age groups before, and you get into a bit of a groove, and you start to overtake people, then they overtake you. They foul an obstacle, you foul an obstacle, and you just sort of backwards and forwards, and it's nice all the way through. Some positive changes off the bat. Penalty loops. I think I incurred 3 today, including the rig at the end, and they have all been made extra big. I mean, I threw the spear today and it went through, like actually through the mannequin guy. Didn't hit like the wood or the hay, and then so it just sort of boinged on the string and fell out. So then the sort of penalty loop for that seemed disproportionate to the actual thing, whereas failing the rig, you have to carry a log under 2 cargo nets as well as a big penalty loop. So this was echoed throughout the entire course. The A-frame, it's about twice as high and it's steeper. You actually sort of get vertigo as you're climbing over the top. The man, I've got loads of things to think about. There's just loads of little things where you think, oh, they've made that good. Oh, one particular thing, the bucket carry is merged with the hoist. I mean, who does that? That is insane. So you carry the bucket around its whole thing, only to then have to put it down, do the hoist, and then carry on. Yeah. So they are thinking about merging various exercise obstacles together. So yeah, it's really interesting array of changes that have been made to the course. And I guess that's part of their resequencing efforts. The 80% less mud thing was in fact true. There was a roll in mud, and I was a little bit concerned that the roll in mud was just going to be like it was at Midlands, but no, it was a fraction. It was just two lumps. It was like half of what the Tough Mudder bit would have been.
So yeah, the course obviously is a lot flatter, but they've sort of offset that by throwing you through lots of soft Endor moon-like forest, which is very soft underfoot and quite technical because there's lots of logs and stumps and sort of broken rotten wood, and you just have to really watch your footing, so you can't go full pelt through there. But yeah, it's really good experience. It's just a shame it ain't a trifecta. You get one of these regional series doohickeys. Today the time for me was 2 hours 15, which considering my fastest beast ever was 2:40 prior to this, it just goes to show that the right climate, the right gradient and the obstacles, they can all have a bearing on your time. And I think it all sort of lined up today. I just wish I'd not faltered on a couple of the obstacles. Olympus, Stairway to Sparta and the rig with my Achilles heel on the spear throw, but I won't talk about that, it makes me sad. Alright, I am gonna go home and have a birthday. Alright, the rest of this video will be picked up sitting in front of my computer like always. Take it easy.
So, today is the 15th of August. Yesterday was a day of rest, which I fast-tracked my venue review video through twice as fast as normal. So not really a rest day. But now I've had a chance to reflect on everything that happened at Gloucester. So, real quick, I'm just going to hit these off. Rolling mud. Great to see it was reduced. The Atlas stones and armour carries that were extended, fantastic. Twice as much sandbag carry, great. Penalty loops, and the overall penalty overhaul was a fantastic thing to see. Brilliant. Well done, Spartan, on that one. The final rig, kind of wish it wasn't there, but one day I might do it and then be well proud of myself as a result. The bucket carry hoist combo was proof that you can mash together two really unrelated obstacles and it create quite a pleasant race experience. You could potentially do that with a bunch of others. The sandbag under the net was not necessarily one of them, but all of these things are welcome. And the A-frame, even though that was a bit of bleed from the Tough Mudder franchise and maybe a logistical thing just to keep it there and use that instead of erecting a second A-frame, was actually quite good. Though you are probably going to have your work cut out trying to convince the rest of the world that they should have a Tough Mudder A-frame instead of a Spartan A-frame. But ultimately my video concludes with, I went into this trying to get a better time, and 2:40 was that time I set at Henley, because that was the last time I raced competitively in Midlands. I ran with my wife and it was much less urgent, so this was the first time I was able to run at my own pace, and potentially I could have run better, I could have fouled obstacles less, and I could have done better on my overall time. But with everything that transpired, I still managed a 2:15, which over 14 miles and 30 obstacles is no, I mean, I'm still quite amazed that it was as low as it was. On the sort of field of athletes, I came 13th in my age group. Obviously that would have been reduced. I would have been probably top 10 if I hadn't fouled the few things that I did. But coulda, woulda, shoulda, it is what it is. C'est la vie. That's what happened on the day, and everything that happened in this video happened for a reason. So I think that concludes things nicely. I just want to say a few thank yous. One, to the organisers and marshals of Spartan Race. Brilliant work. You guys literally pulled up your pants after Spartan Midlands and really made a difference to Spartan South West. So thank you very much. And lastly, I must say thank you to Holly, my wife, who followed me around an obscene amount of this course, the entire length of it in fact, with 2 cameras recording me from the outside. I didn't carry any cameras around with me on this particular adventure, so she literally, with a backpack on and 2 cameras bolted to one another, followed me around, much to the amazement of my fellow Spartans, as she overtook us on more than one occasion to get to the obstacle ahead of time to meet me there. So again, thank you very much. So I think that brings us to a natural conclusion to this video. Fantastic day, fantastic event, and a fantastic result. And I hope to see you all at Bippingford at the next event, which will be on us before we know it. Alright, thank you for watching this video. Give the channel a subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Malt out.